your boy Ti, and this is not necessarily new, but I just seen the clip. So Ti was on man, what's homeboy name? Cam Newton. Ti was on Cam
Mm-hmm.
Newton's podcast, and he had something very interesting to say about trap music. He feels like trap music is telling the story of those who came out of that, and it's not
Mm-hmm.
necessarily a glorification,
Right.
but
You're speaking your truth.
it's speaking your truth. So we're gonna hear what Ti has to say about that.
A lot of people say, trap music, even after 20 years, they're like, yo, well, it's just glorification of felonious activity. It's just people, making light of people selling drugs. Well, I say to that this. If you look at us differently, don't look at us as drug dealers, drug users, or former drug dealers. Look at us as refugees from the war on drugs.
Mm.
War that was waged against the citizens in this country that look like us. Right? Crack was dropped off in our community. Right. These sentences were meant to take us away, remove us from being able to be fathers, brothers, mothers, cousins, uncles, aunts, just break down the family dynamic. And from that, we found the silver lining. We took what the devil meant for bad, allowed God to use it for good, turned it into philosophical presentation, set the music, called it trap music, and changed the course of living for our families forever. And nothing else has been able to do that for us outside of throwing a ball. Yes, sir. Catching, throwing, shooting. I mean, ain't nothing else really that has been able to do that as much as this has. And no one would say that an alcoholic who drank liquor for 20 years got clean in 2003 and been clean for 20 years, but still can recall how alcohol tastes, still can recall the last time they threw up, still can recall all of the hardships and all of the things, the pain that came with it, and still can recall how they overcame that and made sacrifices to live a better life today. Right. That's their testimony. No one could take that away from them. As and they alcohol user. But they use that testimony share with other alcoholics to let them know that they too can one day get clean. Yes, sir.
There you have it.
He is correct.
There was a lot of pushback with Ti and that statement. There was a lot of pushback. Oh, well, you've been glorifying the streets, you've been this, and da 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 da. What are your thoughts on that, Rebecca? Because I thought that clip right there that I seen, I thought it was very interesting. But I want you to talk about that first before I.
Yeah, I kind of knew where he was going when he started comparing the two. I think he's absolutely correct. How come you can't make money off your struggle? People do it every day. And here's my thing. If it's okay for white folks to make money off your struggle, how come they can't make money off their own?
Uh-oh.
Just a question. You know, just a little razzle dazzle, just a question. We so worried about what T.I. saying this and that, which he's, in my opinion, 100% correct. No one knows what their life is like. And people know when they hear it, the lyrics, if it's genuine or not. You can look at the person and listen to the lyrics and see how they move a little bit and be like, yeah, this nigga lived this shit. I just don't understand why people are such an uproar about it. Why is him telling his story, his testimony through music, which is actually very genius? You're literally turning your testimony into profit. You're turning your pain, your hope, your hurt, your struggle, your doubts, your fears, resentment, All anger, frustration, all of that, you're turning it into profit. So are we really mad because T.I. is glorifying whatever, demonic trap music, violence, all this other thing, all these other things? Are we really mad that T.I. is doing that? Or are we really upset because is white folks really upset because we found a way to monetize our hurt, anger, fears, frustration, our testimony, our life? It's almost like, how dare you profit off of your pain?
But it
That's only
wasn't the
for
white
us.
people though. It wasn't the white people. It was the black people. Said you sold poison to your community, and now you are glorifying it through song.
Here's what I say to that. It's sad how we as a people cannot, in some instances, rally behind a person when they're doing something. They're not looking at the circumstances in which to live. It is very arrogant to say that I would have never done that in my community. I've had the life that he had, but you didn't. Some of your circumstances might be similar, but you didn't have the life that he had. Oh, well, I've had a life that he had. I would never do such a thing. You don't know what that man was dealing with, and you don't know what he was facing. The stuff in his music is only a pinch of what probably could have happened to him, and for him to make the choices that he made. I don't see nothing wrong with profiting off your life story and something that's a part of who you were at the time. Like I don't see why we have an issue with that. I mean, I guess because they're like, oh well, at the end of the day, you're selling drugs, but it's like these are the same people who are like super Christians, and they forget that the Bible tells you that you have to forgive and not judge. They do left that life in his past years ago. Why are we not able to move forward when
But
we
he's
feel like it doesn't fit
influencing the
us?
youth, Rebecca. He's influencing the youth.
Okay, what are you doing at home, man? Focus on that. Focus on what you're doing and not doing that influences your kids. Huh? All them niggas running in and out your fucking house, and these little
Uh-oh.
girls get to see these niggas in and out, in and out. Can we focus on that? Okay, sir, if you got something to say, you need to focus on your life and what you doing.
Mm.
How about that? How about strap up for once and stop having 15 kids? How about do that? I'm just saying,
Ooh.
I'm
Ooh.
just I'm just saying,
Dr. Umar would disagree with you.
judge not.
We gonna Dr. Umar would disagree with
Judge,
you, but we gonna get into what he was
man,
talking
that nigga
about
stupid
later.
anyway. I don't even see why that nigga get
Dr.
airtime.
Umar Ifantunde would disagree with your statement, Rebecca.
That motherfucking Thanos ass
Mm?
fucking beard. I ain't got time
Thanos
to
built
no, for real, bro.
you know,
For real. If you really think about it, absolutely.
I don't have a problem with T.I. said. I agree with him. Because first of all, crack was meant to decimate the black community. And in some aspects it did,
Mm-hmm.
but in other aspects it didn't.
Yep.
Yes, there were people who were strung out on drugs.
Mm-hmm.
Not like there's not ever been somebody strung on drugs since the history of drugs. I mean, if you figure the 30s, the 40s, the 20s with Billie Holiday and the like, and Ray Charles was hooked on heroin.
Mm-hmm.
Bad. And this was before crack even came in. So, first of all, I just want to add that caveat. Let's not act like drugs have not always been have not existed before crack came in. Second of all, when you're faced with a certain situation, they say an animal is most dangerous when it's cornered. When you have a situation to where you feel like all hope is lost.
Mm-hmm.
You know, where you feel like there's nothing else you could do but turn to a life of crime, you're going to justify that in order to eat because it's survival of the fittest. If you go back and listen to KRS-One, Boogie Down Production, Love's Gonna Get You, he talks about how my sisters geared and had no sex appeal. Me and my brother shared the same two pair of pants, and my mom didn't really make that much. And you know, and now homeboy down the street gave me a couple $100 for a quick delivery, and
Mm-hmm.
now I'm getting money, and now we got clothes, and now we got food on the table, and now blah 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 blah. That is the situation in which the U.S. government left us in. So with Ti, again, like you said, Rebecca, that was 20, 30 years ago,
Mm-hmm.
give or take. You know, one of my favorite artists, Don Tripp from Memphis, that's all he talks about is selling dope and the reason why he sold dope. If you
Mm-hmm.
watch the art of rap, something from nothing, the art of rap,
Mm-hmm. It was good.
Bun B says something very, very powerful. He says, if I don't hear, he's like, because Ice T asked him a question, and he basically went into how UGK, what they talk about in their songs. He's like, you know, our songs are about what happens when the drug dealer goes home at the end of the night and he's counting the money, and there's certain things that he had to do to get that money, and blah blah blah. And then he done worked himself up from the little street level dude to the big baller.
Mm-hmm.
He ends up getting busted, goes to prison, comes out. He has no other life skills, so he's forced to go back on the corner to do the same things he did before he got into prison. Because again, prison don't rehabilitate people. It's just a cage. They don't offer you any sort of classes or any sort of courses for you to try to correct yourself. At least American prisons anyway. And Ice T said, I call that the B side of the game. The B
Mm-hmm.
side. Everybody wants to talk about when the money's good, when it's coming in, when everything's all good in the hood. He said, but if I don't hear that B side, you know, I know your music's fake.
Mm-hmm.
And I'm not mad at Ti for making a profit off of his own struggle. Sometimes you have to do a little good, I mean, a little bad to do a little good.
Mm-hmm.
You know, you could say Robin Hood. Robin Hood robbed from the rich, gave to the needy. You could say, well, he robbed from the rich, he's wrong. But on the other hand, you could say, well, he gave what he got from the rich to the poor. And then that begs the question, well, why are the poor poor? Because the rich was stealing from the poor. I don't have a problem with what T.I. did. He not the only one.
Mm-hmm.
I think 2 Chainz had a line like, sold my mom drugs, you know, told my dad fuck him. Jeezy has talked about how he and his mom got into a fight because she was hooked on drugs and she got into a stash.
Mm-hmm.
He talked about how he almost put his hands on her. So these are real situations by real people. And especially considering how the systematic, you know, all of the systematic things that come into place with the Great Migration, people moving out of the Jim Crow South up to the Midwest, up to the North. You funnel people into these projects, which they're called projects for a
Mm-hmm.
reason. These high rise apartments, which were low funded, weren't properly maintained, weren't taken care of. When you put people into a jungle situation, don't be surprised when they act like the jungle in which they're from.
Mm-hmm.
But that was then. What's happening now? Yes, we've seen T.I.'s idiotic son in the news for doing dumb shit. He's a kid. You do what you do. You can agree, you can disagree with Ti, but I've heard, I don't know if it's true. I've heard that Ti owns a construction company in which
Mm-hmm.
he builds low income housing for families. I don't know if that's true. That's what I've heard. But again, uh, he did what he did. Now, for him to do the things that he's doing now, he had to talk about his struggle. He had to talk about what happened, and he took that money, and now his family's doing good. Now he's giving other people opportunities to eat off of him, other rappers, music video people. If he does have some sort of construction company or own,
Just answer your question. It does say he does own a construction company called New Finish Construction with his uncle, and it's supposed to be it is dedicated to Benwood. Yep, so he does.
thank you for that, Rebecca. I appreciate that.
Mm-hmm.
You quick on the draw too. So yeah, your man do own a construction company. So the
Yep.
negative that he did in those times, him talking about his struggles, and again, I agree with you 100%, Rebecca. It goes back to your family, your household. What are you doing for your kids?
Yep.
He has Ti is obviously not the same person who he was when he was
Nah.
young selling dope. He not the same Ti when he was in and out of prison during the trap music time. You know, back when his first album came out. He's not that same person. People give Ti shit for using big words like expeditiously and stuff like that, but I just think that just shows the ignorance of other people. This man has clearly educated himself to a certain point where he could use
Mm-hmm.
larger words, words that you possibly have not heard of. When I
Yeah.
read a book, I'm reading Germany's Black Holocaust. I'm actually finished with it. There's a couple excerpts at the end that I have not
Mm-hmm.
got to yet, but there's words when I read books. I'm like, what is that word? I've never
I
heard
do the
that word
same
before.
thing. I'll be looking it up.
I got to go to Google. What's that word? Oh, it means that you are second and third in line from the rear. Oh, okay. Now I know. Now I can add that to my repertoire. There's people that be like, damn, bro, you one of the smartest people I know. I I just try not to stay ignorant, G. That's it. You know.
Yeah.